DreamWave English presents a journey that will challenge your mind, reshape your listening skills, and elevate your fluency to an advanced level. My name is Sophia, and for the next 2 hours, you and I are going to explore English the way real speakers use it every single day. But before we dive deeper, I want you to imagine something. Imagine speaking with a clarity that surprises even you. Imagine expressing thoughts smoothly, spontaneously, and confidently, without translating in your head. Imagine understanding fast conversations without hesitation. Today is the beginning of that version of you. What you are about to hear is not just a listening practice session. It is a full immersion experience created to train your brain to think in English at an advanced level. The sounds, the rhythm, the sentence flow, the real-life vocabulary, the natural expressions, and the structured progression all work together to push you toward C1 and C2 fluency. Our goal is simple. I will expose you to authentic English in a way that feels natural, engaging, and meaningful. You will not simply hear English, you will experience it. But first, let me prepare your mindset. Many learners reach an upper intermediate level and stop improving because they no longer push themselves into challenging input. They understand enough to survive, but not enough to thrive. They rely on subtitles, predictable sentences, or familiar vocabulary. But advanced English requires a new kind of training: long-form listening, repeated exposure, and deep understanding of meaning, not just words. This is why today's session is designed differently. It is not a lesson you memorize. It is not a short story filled with unrealistic textbook lines. Instead, every part of this listening journey comes from real situations, real conversations, and real communication patterns. You will hear natural transitions, spontaneous thoughts, and organic storytelling. You will hear how an advanced speaker connects ideas, emphasizes emotions, and guides the listener through meaning. For the next 2 hours, I want you to listen with curiosity. Do not worry about understanding every single word. Focus on the rhythm. Focus on the flow. Focus on how sentences stretch, bend, and connect. This is how your listening intelligence grows. Let me start by giving you a simple warm-up reflection. Think about your daily use of English. Do you listen more than you speak? Do you speak more than you listen? Or do you try to balance both? Many advanced learners unknowingly limit their own progress by practicing only one skill. But true fluency requires harmony between input and output. You absorb English through listening, and you produce English through speaking. When these two skills work together, your fluency becomes effortless. In today's session, we reinforce both. You will listen intensively, but the content will naturally stimulate your speaking ability. As you absorb advanced patterns, your brain will begin to mirror them, adopt them, and produce them. Now let me take you into the first segment of this immersive journey. I want you to imagine yourself waking up in a new city. The sun rises slowly over tall buildings. The streets begin to fill with early morning energy. You step out of your apartment with a cup of coffee in your hand, feeling the cool air on your skin. You hear the sounds of traffic, distant voices, and life beginning around you. Today, your goal is simple: to observe, to listen, and to connect with the world in English. You walk down the street and notice subtle details: the expressions on people's faces, the tone of their conversations, the speed of their movements, and suddenly, you realize something important. Every sound you hear carries meaning. Every conversation you overhear contains patterns that native speakers use unconsciously. Today, I want you to pay attention to these details, because these are the authentic elements of advanced English. You hear two people talking outside a cafe. Their conversation is spontaneous, casual, and natural. They interrupt each other occasionally. They shift topics smoothly, and their sentences flow without effort. This is what real-life English sounds like. It is not perfect. It is not scripted. It is dynamic. It is alive. As you continue listening, your brain starts to make connections. You begin to recognize familiar phrases used in new contexts. You notice new vocabulary carried by tone rather than explanation. You understand meaning from the situation rather than from a dictionary. This is the core of advanced listening, connecting ideas, not just words. Now, let's shift our focus to your internal experience. As you listen, you might feel moments of clarity, followed by moments of difficulty. This is natural. Advanced listening is not supposed to be easy. It pushes your brain to adapt, to process faster, and to expand your comprehension. The more you expose yourself to extended listening, the more your mind begins to predict meaning, anticipate structure, and follow complex ideas. This is what we will strengthen throughout this 2-hour session. But before moving on, I want to give you one guiding principle for the entire journey. Trust the process. Even if a section feels fast or challenging, stay with it. Your brain learns more from difficulty than from comfort. Every moment of confusion is actually growth. Now, let's begin our first intensive listening segment. Stay relaxed, stay focused. Let the English flow naturally into your mind. You are ready for the next step in your fluency journey. As we move deeper into this session, I want you to shift your attention from simple listening to active comprehension. You are no longer listening just to understand words. You are listening to understand thought patterns, intentions, connections, and emotional tones. At the C1 and C2 levels, fluency is not only about vocabulary range. It is about being able to follow complex ideas, subtle meanings, and nuanced communication. Let's continue our immersive journey through the city. You are still walking down the street, but now you are more aware of the sound environment around you. The city speaks a language of its own, and every part of it becomes a listening laboratory for you. You hear a delivery truck unloading boxes, and the workers communicate in short, clipped phrases, very different from the smooth conversation outside the cafe earlier. This is something many learners overlook. English changes depending on context. Workers, students, professionals, tourists, and friends all use English differently. The more contexts you expose yourself to, the more flexible and confident your listening becomes. As you continue walking, you turn a corner and enter a quieter part of the neighborhood. The contrast is immediate. The sounds soften, the conversations drop in volume, and you notice the difference in speaking style. A quieter environment creates slower speech patterns. People articulate more gently. Their tone becomes calmer, and their sentences take on a more reflective rhythm. These variations in tone and pace are crucial for developing advanced comprehension. A true advanced learner does not only understand one type of English, they understand all types of English, regardless of speed, accent, or emotional intensity. Now let me guide you through a moment of reflection. Ask yourself, which type of English challenges you the most? fast conversations, long sentences, varied accents, or perhaps natural, unscripted speech. Identifying your weaknesses is the first step in strengthening them. During this session, you will encounter all kinds of English patterns, so keep an open mind. Each challenge is an opportunity to expand your capacity. You continue walking and enter a bookstore. The atmosphere shifts once again. It smells like paper, ink, and quiet concentration. Inside the store, you overhear a different kind of conversation. A young woman is asking for book recommendations. Her voice is curious and expressive. The shop owner responds with a thoughtful, slow-paced explanation, using richer vocabulary. This interaction demonstrates something important. Advanced English often involves layered meaning. People express not only information, but also emotion, opinion, and perspective. At higher levels of fluency, you need to grasp not just what they say, but how they say it, and why they say it that way. Let's listen carefully to the conversation. The young woman says she wants a book that will challenge her imagination. She is looking for something that does not just tell a story, but makes her think deeply. The shop owner describes a novel that blends reality with philosophical themes. He explains how the author uses metaphor and symbolism to communicate hidden messages. Even without hearing their exact words, you can sense the complexity of the exchange. This is the kind of communication that pushes your comprehension to a truly advanced level. As you listen to them, imagine yourself taking part in the conversation. Imagine forming your thoughts in clear, natural English. Imagine responding with confidence, using expressive language and strong vocabulary. This exercise helps train your speaking skills even while you're listening. The brain learns patterns by imagining itself using them. This is why immersion is powerful, even without speaking aloud. After a few minutes, you leave the bookstore and return to the street. The city feels different now, not because it has changed, but because you have changed. You are listening more deeply, more consciously, more intelligently. Advanced listening is a mental workout. You are strengthening your ability to follow connections, interpret tone, and understand meaning beyond the literal. Now, let's introduce another layer to your listening journey: internal narration. In English, native speakers often think in flowing, connected thoughts. They do not think in isolated sentences. They think in stories. They think in images. They think in impressions and interpretations. As an advanced learner, you need to develop this inner English voice. It helps you react naturally in conversations, express complex ideas, and maintain fluency without hesitation. So, as you walk through the city, begin to narrate your experience in your mind. Describe what you see. Describe how you feel. Describe what you think. Do this silently. In English, this technique trains your brain to create language instead of translating language. When you can narrate your thoughts in English, you move closer to true fluency. Let me give you an example of internal narration. Imagine your inner voice saying something like this: I notice the way the sunlight reflects off the windows. I hear the distant hum of traffic blending with the voices around me. I feel a sense of curiosity as I explore this part of the city. These are natural, fluid sentences. They do not need to be perfect. They only need to flow. This internal practice strengthens your ability to process and produce English at an advanced level. As you continue walking, the city begins to open up before you. You approach a park and the environment transitions again. You hear the laughter of children, the footsteps of joggers, the steady rhythm of a fountain, and the murmur of friends talking on benches. The soundscape becomes layered, soft, and rich. Listening in an environment like this helps you practice separating important information from background noise. This is a skill advanced learners must master. Real-life English rarely happens in silence. It happens in restaurants, offices, streets, airports, and parks. It happens around distractions. In this moment, focus your listening. Follow one conversation at a time. Tune in, tune out, switch focus. Observe how your brain adapts. This exercise strengthens selective listening, a vital skill for understanding native speakers in complex environments. Your fluency journey continues. And in the next part, we will deepen this immersion with more challenging high-level narrative listening, designed to expand your comprehension even further. As the sounds of the park continue around you, your mind becomes more alert, more receptive, and more tuned in to the flow of English. You are no longer simply listening, you are absorbing. Every detail, every subtle shift in tone, every natural pause begins to shape your understanding of advanced communication. This is the stage where your brain starts recognizing not just the language, but the thinking behind the language. This is what separates an intermediate learner from an advanced one. At C1 and C2 levels, your goal is not only to comprehend English, but to interpret it intuitively. You walk farther into the park, and the scenery opens into a wide green field. People are scattered across the grass, reading, talking, or simply enjoying a quiet moment. You decide to sit on a bench for a few minutes, letting the environment surround you. This is your immersion zone. This moment represents how fluency naturally develops. By giving your brain enough time, space, and exposure to process language deeply. As you sit there, you overhear a new conversation. This one is different from the others you encountered earlier. Two university students are discussing a topic from a recent lecture. Their speech is more academic, more structured, and more logical. They use transitional phrases, such as, on the other hand, in contrast, and from a broader perspective. These kinds of expressions appear frequently in advanced English, especially in academic or intellectual discussions. Listening to them helps you train your ear for higher-level reasoning, argumentation, and explanation. Let's imagine their conversation more clearly. One student is explaining an idea about human behavior, saying that people often make decisions based on intuition rather than rational thinking. The other student responds thoughtfully, adding that intuition can be shaped by past experiences and emotions. Their exchange flows naturally, but the complexity lies in the content, not the vocabulary alone. They are building ideas together. They are expanding on each other's thoughts. This is advanced communication. It requires not only strong language skills, but also deep comprehension. As you listen, your mind begins to follow the logic. You understand the progression of ideas, introduction, elaboration, comparison, contrast, conclusion. You see how advanced speakers organize their thoughts, and this is exactly what you need to internalize. At higher levels of fluency, structure becomes just as important as vocabulary. You must learn to connect ideas smoothly, naturally, and coherently. After a few minutes, you stand up and begin walking again, feeling more engaged and more aware of the language around you. The park path leads to a small bridge crossing a quiet stream. As you walk across, you notice how the sound of the water mixes with distant voices. This combination of natural and human sound creates a perfect listening environment. It challenges your concentration. It sharpens your attention. It forces your mind to focus on meaning despite distractions. This experience reflects a fundamental truth. Real-life English does not wait for you. It does not slow down. It does not simplify itself. Instead, you must rise to meet it. You must learn to process language quickly, accurately, and confidently, even in imperfect conditions. This is what today's immersive session is training you to do. Once you cross the bridge, you enter a busier area of the park. There are small groups of people having lively conversations. Their speech patterns are faster. Their expressions are more energetic. They interrupt each other occasionally, laugh spontaneously, and speak with vibrant intonation. Listening to fast, natural conversations is one of the biggest challenges for advanced learners. But this is also one of the most powerful training tools. When you expose yourself to speech that pushes your limits, your brain adapts. It builds speed, flexibility, and comprehension accuracy. Focus your attention on one particular group. They are discussing their travel plans for the upcoming summer. You hear them mention destinations, compare experiences, share stories, and express their excitement. Their tone rises and falls naturally. Their sentences overlap. They use casual expressions and idioms, like "to be honest" at the end of the day. And it totally blew my mind. These expressions cannot always be translated directly. Their meaning depends on context, emotion, and intention. Understanding them is part of reaching advanced fluency. Let's imagine you are part of that group. How would you contribute to the conversation? What stories would you share? What opinions would you express? This kind of mental participation strengthens both your listening and speaking skills. The more you imagine yourself using English in real social situations, the more natural your fluency becomes. Your brain learns through simulation. Practicing mentally prepares you for real interactions. After leaving the group behind, you exit the park and return to the streets of the city. The energy is stronger now. More people, more movement, more conversations. You notice a pair of colleagues walking quickly while discussing a work project. Their conversation is professional. They talk about deadlines, priorities, and strategies. This type of English requires a different set of listening skills. The vocabulary is more formal. The tone is more focused. The structure is more precise. Listening to them trains your professional fluency, something many advanced learners need for work, interviews, or academic settings. Let's pay attention to how they communicate. One colleague explains a challenge they faced with a recent assignment. The other responds with suggestions, using conditional phrases like, "if we consider this approach, and it might be more efficient if we adjust the timeline." These phrases help express possibility, probability, and analysis, which are essential for advanced communication. As you listen, notice how their sentences flow, logically and clearly. This is a model you can use to improve the quality of your own speaking. You continue walking, and suddenly hear a different type of English behind you. A group of tourists is asking for directions. Their English is not perfect, but they communicate effectively. This moment teaches you something important. Fluency is not about perfection. It is about clarity, confidence, and communication. Even at advanced levels, You will still make mistakes. Everyone does, even native speakers. What matters is your ability to express meaning without fear. Once you overcome the fear of mistakes, your fluency accelerates. As your walk through the city continues, your mind grows more comfortable with the complexity of real-life English. Background noise no longer distracts you. Fast speech no longer intimidates you. New expressions no longer confuse you. Instead, you feel more grounded, more confident, and more capable. In the next part, we will transition into deeper, high-level storytelling and advanced narrative listening, designed to stretch your comprehension even further. As you continue walking through the city, something shifts in your awareness. Up until now, you have been observing, listening, and absorbing English from the outside. But at this stage of your fluency journey, I want you to step inside the language. I want you to feel not just what people say, but why they say it and how their thoughts form before the words come out. This deeper level of comprehension is what distinguishes advanced listeners from everyone else. You make your way toward a quieter district, where the buildings grow taller and the streets become narrower. The city feels older here, filled with history and stories that echo through the architecture. As you walk, you pass a small corner cafe. Through the window, you notice an older man sitting alone with a notebook open in front of him. His pen moves slowly, thoughtfully, as if he is choosing each word with deliberate care. This moment draws your attention, and you decide to step inside the cafe for a brief pause. The atmosphere is warm and calm. Soft music plays in the background. The air smells like roasted coffee and baked pastries. You find a seat by the window, close enough to hear the man's quiet conversation with the barista. His speech is calm, precise, and elegant. He speaks English with a kind of intentionality that feels almost literary. Every sentence flows naturally, yet it has structure. He uses transitional phrases like, "What fascinates me most," and the interesting thing about that is, listening to him becomes an advanced exercise in understanding not just language, but perspective. As he continues speaking, you catch fragments of his story. He is a writer working on a memoir. He explains that he is trying to capture moments from his life in a way that feels honest and meaningful. The barista listens with genuine interest, occasionally asking questions that reveal deeper layers of the writer's experiences. Their conversation becomes a window into expressive English. It shows you how advanced speakers develop ideas with clarity, emotion, and narrative depth. After a few minutes, the writer closes his notebook and takes a sip of coffee. His silence becomes a part of the communication. In advanced English, silence is not empty. It carries meaning. It reflects thought, reflection, or emotion. As you observe, you realize something important about fluency. Advanced communication is not about speaking quickly or using complicated vocabulary. It is about expressing ideas naturally, authentically, and purposefully. You leave the cafe feeling inspired by the calm intelligence of that interaction. As you continue walking, your mind becomes more aware of the subtleties of advanced communication. You notice how people gesture when they speak, how they emphasize certain words, how their tone shifts depending on their intention. These small details create meaning beyond the literal content of the sentences. They help you understand the personality, mood, and emotional state of a speaker. Just then, you hear someone behind you call out to a friend across the street. Their tone is loud, cheerful, and enthusiastic. Even without turning around, you instantly know the emotional context. Tone is one of the most important aspects of advanced listening. It tells you everything the words do not: excitement, frustration, amusement, curiosity, or concern. And the more you expose yourself to natural speech, the more accurately you can interpret these emotional signals. As you walk farther, you reach a museum entrance. A group of visitors is gathered near the front, listening to a guide explaining the history of the building. The guide's speech is clear, rich, and expressive. She describes the architecture, the artists, and the stories behind each piece with passion. Her voice carries rhythms that rise and fall naturally, emphasizing important details and guiding the listener's attention. This type of structured descriptive communication is another essential skill for advanced comprehension. It teaches you how to follow longer, more detailed explanations without losing the thread. You pause for a moment and listen more closely. The guide uses phrases like "historically speaking," "what makes this particularly interesting," and "to fully understand this piece." These are markers of advanced spoken English. They help organize complex information and lead listeners step by step through sophisticated ideas. As you absorb her explanation, you train your mind to follow these logical patterns. This is exactly the kind of listening skill needed for professional meetings, academic lectures, or high-level discussions. After leaving the museum, you continue your journey toward the heart of the city. The streets become wider and more active. You hear the sounds of commuters rushing to their destinations. Among the crowd, two teachers walk side by side, discussing their students' progress. Their conversation is thoughtful and analytical. They talk about motivation, learning styles, and personal challenges. Their language is empathetic and reflective. Listening to them helps you understand how advanced English functions in professional and emotional contexts at the same time. You follow their conversation from a short distance. One teacher mentions that her students improve most when they receive consistent, meaningful input. The other agrees, adding that students often underestimate how much progress happens quietly, internally, beneath the surface. This part of their discussion mirrors your own language journey. Advanced fluency develops through continuous exposure, through listening that challenges you, through moments when everything suddenly becomes clearer. You continue walking until you reach a library. The entrance is open, and you hear the soft murmur of people speaking inside. You step in. The library is quiet, but the conversations you hear are concentrated and articulate. People discuss research, literature, history, and ideas that require careful thought. Listening in environments like this prepares you for high-level English used in academic and intellectual settings. This is a key step for C1 and C2 fluency. As you walk between the shelves, you overhear a discussion about a historical event. The speakers analyze the causes, effects, and long-term consequences. Their language is intentional, analytical, and layered. This kind of communication requires you to follow arguments, connect ideas, and interpret deeper meaning beyond the literal text. These are the listening skills needed for advanced comprehension. As you leave the library, the sky outside begins to shift. The light becomes softer. The air feels cooler. Your listening journey is entering a new phase. In the next part, we will move from observation into deeper storytelling. where you will follow longer, more complex narratives that challenge your listening at a higher level. As you continue your walk through the city, the air cools, and the sky begins to fade toward early evening. The rhythm of the streets changes with the shifting light. People walk with different energy now. Some are heading home, moving with purpose and familiarity. Others are just beginning their activities, preparing for the excitement of nighttime. This transition in the city's atmosphere mirrors a deeper transition in your listening journey. Up until now, you have sharpened your awareness of real-life English in fragments, short conversations, quick exchanges, layered sound environments, and shifting tones. Now, we will move into sustained storytelling, the type of advanced listening that challenges your concentration, develops your endurance, and expands your comprehension capacity. You turn onto a quieter street, lined with older buildings and warm yellow lights glowing from windows. Ahead of you is a small, independent theater. The sign outside says, "Open Storytelling Night." Curious, you step inside. The space is intimate, softly lit, with a small stage at the front and chairs arranged in neat rows. People from different backgrounds sit quietly, waiting for the next storyteller to appear. Storytelling events like this one are common in many English-speaking cities, and they are incredibly valuable for advanced learners. Speakers share personal experiences, thoughtful reflections, and emotional journeys. Their stories often weave together complex ideas, descriptive language, and expressive tone. This setting becomes a perfect opportunity for you to dive deeper into the flow of advanced spoken English. You take a seat near the back as the next storyteller walks onto the stage. She is a woman in her mid-30s with calm confidence and an open expression. When she begins speaking, her voice carries a soft strength that immediately draws the room's attention. She begins her story with a simple sentence: "I learned something unexpected about myself last year." This introduction signals introspection, inviting listeners to join her on a personal journey. Advanced English often uses these subtle cues to set the tone. She describes how she decided to leave her comfortable job to pursue something uncertain but meaningful. Her sentences are clear, thoughtful, and emotionally grounded. She explains that she had reached a point where routine no longer felt fulfilling. She wanted creativity, challenge, and purpose. As she speaks, you can hear the complexity of her emotions: hesitation, excitement, fear, liberation. These emotional layers enrich the meaning of her words. Understanding them is a key part of advanced comprehension. You are not just listening to language, you are reading between the lines. She continues her story, describing the months that followed her decision. One part of her narrative stands out. She explains how, at first, she believed that her new path would be straightforward, a simple matter of following her passion. But life rarely moves in straight lines. She faced unexpected obstacles, moments of doubt, times when she questioned everything. Her story reflects a very natural pattern of advanced storytelling, a mix of reflection, contrast, and growth. This structure helps your mind follow the logical and emotional flow, strengthening your listening endurance. As the storyteller moves deeper into her experience, her pace slows. The room becomes still. She talks about a moment when she almost gave up, when the weight of uncertainty felt overwhelming. But then she describes an encounter with a stranger who offered a brief but powerful piece of encouragement. It was only a few words, she says, but they changed everything. This moment teaches an important truth about communication. Sometimes the most meaningful messages are not the longest or the most sophisticated. They are the ones that connect emotionally. Her story shifts again, this time toward resolution. She explains how she eventually found her direction, not by escaping difficulty, but by moving through it with patience and honesty. Her final message is one of resilience. Sometimes you do not need the entire path to be clear. You only need the courage to take the next step. Her voice softens on the last sentence, leaving a moment of silence that feels intentional and powerful. The audience responds with quiet appreciation. As you sit there, absorbing her story, you realize how much your listening has evolved. You followed a long, complex narrative without losing focus. You understood not only the events, but also the emotions and the deeper meaning. You recognized the structure of her storytelling, the transitions between reflection, conflict, and resolution. This is advanced comprehension in action. When the next storyteller steps up, the atmosphere shifts again. This time, the speaker is a younger man with a lively energy. His tone is humorous and lighthearted, contrasting sharply with the previous story. This contrast is a crucial part of your listening training. At advanced levels, you must be able to adapt quickly, shifting between emotional tones and adjusting to different speaking styles. His story begins with a humorous confession. He once accidentally joined a professional cooking class, despite having no experience in the kitchen. His expressive voice and exaggerated descriptions create a rhythm that keeps the audience engaged. His sentences are shorter, punchier, more comedic. He uses phrases like, "to my complete surprise," and "I had absolutely no idea what I was doing." These expressions reflect conversational, natural English. Listening to humor requires a different kind of comprehension. You must understand timing, sarcasm, exaggeration, and context. For advanced learners, this type of listening strengthens your sense of tone and helps you interpret meaning beyond the literal words. As he continues, his story becomes more chaotic and entertaining. He describes his attempts to follow the instructor's commands, each more confusing than the last. The audience laughs, and you find yourself following his rhythm easily. This demonstrates an important point. When your listening skills grow strong enough, you naturally adjust to different voices and storytelling methods. You no longer need every word to be slow or structured. You can follow the flow, guided by tone, context, and natural language cues. Toward the end of his story, he shifts to a more reflective tone. He explains that even though he felt completely out of place, the experience taught him something valuable. Sometimes growth comes from embarrassing moments, unexpected risks, and unfamiliar environments. His message mirrors the earlier storyteller's theme, but delivered through humor instead of introspection. This layered contrast enriches your understanding of advanced English. You see how different personalities communicate the same idea through completely different styles. The event concludes, and you step outside the theater, feeling mentally energized and linguistically stretched. Storytelling has given you a type of practice that few traditional methods provide: emotional comprehension, long-form listening, structural awareness, and tone interpretation. In the next part, we will take this deeper by shifting into real-life decision-making and advanced perspective-taking, allowing your fluency to expand even further. Create a series of short, powerful speaking challenges designed to help viewers build fluency and confidence. Each challenge must be simple, interactive, and focused on real-life English communication. Make every challenge 5 to 10 seconds long, so viewers can repeat them easily. Include a mix of imitation challenges, repeat after me, speed speaking drills, real-life response challenges, opinion-based micro-prompts, situation-based quick replies, finish the sentence, fluency boosters, write them clearly and naturally, as if speaking directly to the viewer in a YouTube video. Make each challenge fun, practical, and helpful for improving speaking speed, clarity, and natural expression. Now that your speaking muscles are activated and your confidence is warming up, let's take the next step. In this part, we are going deeper into real-life English patterns at the C1 to C2 level. These patterns appear constantly in native conversations, but many advanced learners still struggle to use them naturally. I want you to listen closely, follow my rhythm, and repeat each example out loud. These structures will help you sound clear, sharp, and effortlessly fluent in real communication. Let's begin with one of the most essential fluency tools, expressive connectors. These are short phrases native speakers use to show attitude, soften opinions, or transition smoothly between ideas. They are not hard to understand, but using them naturally takes practice. Listen and repeat after me. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. If I am being completely straightforward, that surprised me. As far as I can tell, this is the best option. From what I have gathered, this might not work. If anything, it made the situation more complicated. Oddly enough, it turned out better than I expected. Technically speaking, it is not even necessary. Realistically, we do not have the time for that. Ideally, I would choose the simpler solution. As a matter of fact, he already knows about it. Repeat these slowly at first, then pick up speed. These expressions make your English feel smooth, professional, and natural. They help you speak with nuance, not just accuracy. Let's move to our next layer, advanced softeners. At the C1 and C2 level, sounding polite, tactful, and diplomatic is extremely important. Native speakers use subtle softeners to avoid sounding rude or direct. Let's practice some together. I might be wrong, but I think we should reconsider. I am not entirely sure, but that does not sound right. I do not mean to interrupt, but may I add something? I hate to bring this up, but we have a problem. I do not want to sound dramatic, but this is serious. If it is not too much to ask, could you help me? I hope this makes sense, but here's what I think. I do not want to pressure you, but we need an answer. These softeners help you communicate like a native speaker who understands tone, emotion, and context. They show emotional intelligence, not just language ability. Now, let's shift into more dynamic practice. I will give you natural real-life prompts that challenge you to respond quickly. These prompts simulate real conversation and help you think faster in English. After each one, pause the video, respond out loud, and then continue. Here is your first prompt. Your coworker suddenly asks you to explain a complicated decision you made. Respond in a calm, confident, and professional manner. Pause the video and speak now. Next prompt. Your friend asks why you changed your weekend plans at the last minute. Give a clear and honest explanation without sounding defensive. Pause and speak. Another one. You are late for an appointment, and someone asks what happened. Give a natural excuse without sounding like you are inventing a story. Pause and answer. Next, you disagree with someone's opinion in a meeting. Express your disagreement politely and clearly. Pause and say your response. Another one. Someone asks you about a mistake you made. Accept responsibility, explain the situation, and stay professional. Pause and respond. Good. These situations help you build mental flexibility. Instead of memorizing English, you learn to create English in real time. Now, let's work on higher-level clarity. Advanced learners often know many words, but they speak in long, messy sentences. The key to fluent English is controlled rhythm. You must know when to pause, when to shorten, when to emphasize, and when to slow down. Listen carefully as I model an advanced fluent rhythm. Here is the uncontrolled version. I think the meeting could have gone better because there were some misunderstandings, and I am not sure everyone understood the main point, and I think we should review everything again. Now here is the controlled version. I think the meeting could have gone better. There were some misunderstandings. I am not sure everyone understood the main point. We should review everything again. The message is the same, but the rhythm is completely different. Controlled rhythm equals clarity. Clarity equals confidence. Fluent speakers do not rush. They guide the listener. Let's practice another pair. Uncontrolled version. Honestly, I did not expect the project to take so long because the initial plan seemed simple, but I guess I underestimated the details. Controlled version. Honestly, I did not expect the project to take so long. The initial plan seemed simple, but I underestimated the details. Pay attention to the pauses. Each pause creates a moment of clarity. That is what native speakers do naturally. Now, let's upgrade your spoken emphasis. Skilled speakers know how to highlight the most important part of their message. I will give you lines to repeat. When you repeat, highlight the emphasized word using your voice, not your volume. Listen first. I did everything I could. I did everything I could. I did everything I could. Each sentence feels different because the emphasis shifts. Practice this technique every day. Another one. I understand why you are upset. I understand why you are upset. I understand why you are upset. This builds emotional depth and natural expression in your English. Before we finish this part, let's reinforce advanced vocabulary used in real-life professional English. These words are common among educated native speakers, and they help you express ideas precisely. Circumstantial means depending on conditions around the situation. Overlook means to accidentally miss something important. Mitigate means to reduce the severity of a problem. Compelling means strong, convincing, or interesting. Tentative means not final or still subject to change. Feasible means realistic and possible to achieve. Ambiguous means unclear or having multiple meanings. Conclusive means final and based on strong evidence. Use these naturally, not as memorized vocabulary lists. The key is to hear them, repeat them, and then use them in your own sentences. This brings us to the end of Part 7. In the next segment, we will dive into advanced comprehension training with long-form listening and shadowing practice. This is where your fluency will begin to accelerate even more. In this next part, we are going to push your listening and speaking ability much further. At the advanced level, you need long-form listening practice that trains your brain to track meaning, structure, tone, and intention all at once. This is exactly what native speakers do automatically. And it is what truly separates fluent learners from those who only sound fluent in short sentences. Here, I will guide you through several extended listening segments. After each one, you will shadow the entire passage out loud. I will read everything twice, first at a natural conversational speed, and then at a slightly slower speed, so you can shadow with accuracy, clarity, and confidence. Let's begin with our first listening passage. Listen closely and do not repeat yet. Natural speed. When you begin working on long-term goals, it is incredibly easy to lose motivation because the results are not immediate. You start off excited, full of energy, and full of hope. But as time goes on, obstacles show up, distractions appear, and progress slows down. This is why so many people quit before they see real change. The key to staying committed is recognizing that the path will not always feel inspiring. Some days, you will simply need to show up even when nothing feels exciting. Consistency is not built on motivation. It is built on discipline, patience, and a clear understanding of why your goal matters. Now shadow the slower version. Repeat with me. Slower speed. When you begin working on long-term goals, it is incredibly easy to lose motivation because the results are not immediate. You start off excited, full of energy, and full of hope. But as time goes on, obstacles show up, distractions appear, and progress slows down. This is why so many people quit before they see real change. The key to staying committed is recognizing that the path will not always feel inspiring. Some days, you will simply need to show up even when nothing feels exciting. Consistency is not built on motivation. It is built on discipline, patience, and a clear understanding of why your goal matters. Good. That passage helps you build rhythm, intonation, and advanced structure recognition. Let's move to the second passage. First, listen. Natural speed. There is a common misconception that native speakers always know exactly what to say. The truth is, native speakers hesitate, reformulate, and adjust their sentences in real time, just like everyone else. The difference is that they are comfortable doing it. They do not panic when their words are not perfect, and they do not stop speaking when they momentarily lose their train of thought. Instead, they rely on natural fillers, transitional phrases, and flexible structures. If you want to speak confidently at the C1 or C2 level, you must learn to stay calm during these moments. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes. It is the ability to continue speaking despite them. Now shadow the slower version with me. Slower speed. There is a common misconception that native speakers always know exactly what to say. The truth is, native speakers hesitate, reformulate, and adjust their sentences in real time just like everyone else. The difference is that they are comfortable doing it. They do not panic when their words are not perfect, and they do not stop speaking when they momentarily lose their train of thought. Instead, they rely on natural fillers, transitional phrases, and flexible structures. If you want to speak confidently at the C1 or C2 level, you must learn to stay calm during these moments. Fluency is not the absence of mistakes. It is the ability to continue speaking despite them. Excellent. Now let's raise the challenge with a more complex passage that uses layered meaning and strong logical structure. Listen to it first. Natural speed. As you advance in your English learning journey, one skill becomes increasingly important: the ability to understand meaning that is not directly stated. In real conversations, people often speak indirectly. They imply things, soften their tone, or use subtle clues to express disagreement, hesitation, or uncertainty. This type of communication requires you to pay attention not only to the words, but also to the context, the tone, and the relationship between the speakers. Mastering this skill helps you avoid misunderstandings and allows you to respond in a way that matches the true meaning behind the message. Now shadow the slower version, slower speed. As you advance in your English learning journey, one skill becomes increasingly important: the ability to understand meaning that is not directly stated. In real conversations, people often speak indirectly. They imply things, soften their tone, or use subtle clues to express disagreement, hesitation, or uncertainty. This type of communication requires you to pay attention not only to the words, but also to the context, the tone, and the relationship between the speakers. Mastering this skill helps you avoid misunderstandings and allows you to respond in a way that matches the true meaning behind the message. Good. Now we will transition into a guided shadowing exercise. This is a powerful technique used by actors, interpreters, and advanced learners around the world. I will read a short monologue, and I want you to shadow me simultaneously at the same speed. Do not worry if you miss a word. Keep going. The point is to build flow and agility. Shadowing speed. One of the most effective ways to improve your spoken English is to challenge your brain to react quickly. When you shadow, you are training your mind to process sound, meaning, and structure at the same time. You learn the natural rhythm of English, the natural breath patterns, the natural emphasis, and the natural melody. Even if you understand everything intellectually, your mouth must learn how it feels to produce fluent English in real time. That is what shadowing trains. Great, we are not done yet. Let's stretch your listening endurance with one final extended passage. Listen closely first. Natural speed. Every language learner eventually reaches a point where progress feels slower, and that point often arrives at the upper intermediate or advanced level. At this stage, you already understand a lot. You can communicate effectively, but moving from good to great, from clear to natural, from confident to effortless, requires a new kind of practice. It requires the ability to push yourself into longer, more complex listening and speaking exercises. It requires patience, repetition, and a willingness to challenge your comfort zone. But the reward is worth it. You begin to think in English more quickly. You respond more naturally. You understand not only what people say, but also how they say it. And gradually, English becomes something you live in, not something you study. Shadow the slower version with me. Slower speed. Every language learner eventually reaches a point where progress feels slower, and that point often arrives at the upper intermediate or advanced level. At this stage, you already understand a lot. You can communicate effectively, but moving from good to great, from clear to natural, from confident to effortless, requires a new kind of practice. It requires the ability to push yourself into longer, more complex listening and speaking exercises. It requires patience, repetition, and a willingness to challenge your comfort zone. But the reward is worth it. You begin to think in English more quickly. You respond more naturally. You understand not only what people say, but also how they say it. And gradually, English becomes something you live in, not something you study. Now that your listening endurance and shadowing skills are activated, it's time to focus on advanced comprehension and active engagement. Up to this point, you have practiced recognizing patterns, tone, and structure. You have repeated expressions, mastered rhythm, and shadowed extended passages. But true fluency at the C1-C2 level goes beyond repetition. It is about thinking in English, responding naturally, and interpreting meaning in real time. This is what we will focus on in this section. Imagine you are entering a small, lively cafe again. The room is filled with natural English conversations. Some are fast, some slow, some are humorous, some reflective. This is your next listening laboratory. Your goal is to engage mentally with every conversation. Listen, predict, infer, and anticipate what might come next. Advanced comprehension is not passive, it is active. When you anticipate, your brain prepares to process English faster and more accurately. It creates a natural flow, a rhythm, and the ability to respond in real time. Let's try a short interactive scenario. A group of colleagues discusses a project. They say things like, "I am worried about the deadline. Maybe we need to redistribute the tasks. Did anyone check the latest numbers?" You hear the tone, notice the hesitations, and infer the underlying concerns. They are stressed, focused, and problem-solving. You imagine yourself contributing naturally. How about we prioritize the tasks that are most urgent? This is the moment where comprehension becomes production. Thinking in English allows your brain to follow meaning instead of translating word by word. Next, let's practice predictive listening. I will give you short sentences that end abruptly. Your task is to silently predict what comes next, then say it out loud. This builds anticipation, sharpens focus, and prepares you for real-life conversations where sentences are rarely completed for you. Sentence 1. I would love to join you for dinner, but predict, I have an appointment I cannot miss. Say it aloud. I would love to join you for dinner, but I have an appointment I cannot miss. Sentence 2. She was excited about the news because, predict, it meant a lot to her family. Say it aloud. She was excited about the news because it meant a lot to her family. Sentence 3. If we want to finish the project on time, predict, we should delegate tasks more efficiently. Say it aloud. If we want to finish the project on time, we should delegate tasks more efficiently. Sentence 4. He didn't respond to my message, which, predict, made me think he was busy. Say it aloud. He didn't respond to my message, which made me think he was busy. Sentence 5. I couldn't believe my eyes when, predict, I saw the unexpected results. Say it aloud. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the unexpected results. Great. Predictive listening trains your brain to process meaning ahead of time. Advanced speakers always do this naturally. They don't wait for every word. They anticipate, interpret, and respond fluently. Now, we move into emotion and nuance in listening. Advanced English is not only about vocabulary and grammar. It is about recognizing emotion, emphasis, sarcasm, humor, and subtle shifts in tone. You may hear someone say, "Oh, that's just perfect." On the surface, it sounds positive, but the tone, the pause, or the context may indicate frustration, irony, or disappointment. Your goal is to train your ear to catch these nuances. This is a skill that separates high-level learners from intermediate speakers. Let's practice. listen carefully to these short scenarios and decide the implied emotion before repeating aloud. Scenario 1. Your friend says, "Oh, wonderful. They just canceled the meeting again." Implied emotion, frustration. Repeat aloud, "Oh, wonderful. They just canceled the meeting again." Scenario 2. A colleague laughs and says, "Well, that was unexpected." Implied emotion, surprise with amusement. Repeat aloud, "Well, that was unexpected." Scenario 3. Someone remarks, "Really? You did that?" Implied emotion, disbelief. Repeat aloud, "Really? You did that?" Scenario 4. A teacher says, "Excellent work, everyone." Implied emotion, genuine praise. Repeat aloud, "Excellent work, everyone." Scenario 5. A friend sighs and says, "I guess that's life." Implied emotion, resignation. Repeat aloud, "I guess that's life." Training your ear for subtle emotion is essential for understanding native speakers in authentic situations. Without this, even highly proficient learners can misinterpret conversations or respond awkwardly. Next, let's combine predictive listening and nuance in longer sentences. I will give you a slightly longer passage. First, listen silently. Then predict what the next sentence or idea will be, and say it aloud. Listen, I never expected the seminar to be so challenging. Each speaker brought unique ideas, and some of the questions were incredibly thought-provoking. By the end, I realized, pause, predict aloud, that I had learned more in a few hours than I had in weeks of independent study. Say it aloud. I realized that I had learned more in a few hours than I had in weeks of independent study. Next passage. She walked into the room with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I could tell immediately. Pause. Predict aloud. That something was troubling her. Say it aloud. I could tell immediately that something was troubling her. Last one. They promised the project would be easy and straightforward. But as we started, it became clear. Pause. Predict aloud. That it required much more planning and effort than we anticipated. Say it aloud. It became clear that it required much more planning and effort than we anticipated. These exercises are advanced listening drills. They strengthen your brain's ability to follow meaning, tone, structure, and emotion simultaneously. Over time, this develops true fluency, where you comprehend naturally, respond instantly, and think in English without hesitation. At this stage, your listening skills are now ready to support rapid, confident, and clear speaking. In the next part, we will focus on real-life advanced speaking simulations, combining everything we have practiced: rhythm, emphasis, vocabulary, emotion, predictive listening, and complex sentence structures. Now that your listening, comprehension, and shadowing skills are fully activated, it's time to integrate everything into real-life advanced speaking simulations. This is where fluency at the C1-C2 level becomes visible. You are no longer repeating after me. You are thinking, predicting, and producing English in real time, just as native speakers do. The goal is clarity, confidence, and natural expression. Let's begin. Imagine yourself in a professional meeting. A team member presents an idea that you partially agree with, but you see a better alternative. Listen to the scenario, then respond out loud, naturally, using connectors, softeners, and advanced expressions you practiced earlier. Scenario: your colleague says, "I think we should focus all our resources on marketing next quarter." Pause. Respond. "That's an interesting suggestion. I see the value, but I wonder if we could balance marketing with product development. That way, we strengthen both areas simultaneously. Notice how your response uses hedging, professional tone, and precise vocabulary. This is exactly the type of speaking expected at advanced levels. Next, let's simulate a social situation. You meet a new friend at a networking event. They ask about your recent project. Your goal: give a clear, engaging, and natural summary in 2 to 3 sentences. Prompt: what did you work on this past month? Response: I've been leading a research project on sustainable technology. It's been fascinating because we're exploring solutions that could really make a difference environmentally and economically. The team has been fantastic, and the results so far are promising. Notice the rhythm, emphasis, and natural transitions. These skills come from the shadowing, predictive listening, and expressive connector practice you've done in previous parts. Now let's simulate a more emotional, real-life conversation. Someone close to you expresses disappointment about a recent decision. Your task: respond empathetically, using softeners and emotional nuance. Prompt: I can't believe you went ahead with that plan without telling me. Response: I completely understand why you feel that way. I didn't intend to upset you, and I really value your perspective. I should have communicated better, and I will make sure it doesn't happen again. This response shows tact, advanced vocabulary, and emotional intelligence, all crucial for confident communication at high levels of English. Next simulation: problem solving under pressure. You are asked for advice in a professional scenario where time is limited. Prompt: we have to finish this project by tomorrow, but there's a major technical issue. What should we do? Response: first, let's identify the most critical part that's blocking progress. Then we can delegate tasks to resolve it efficiently. If needed, we can request extra support. But I think focusing on priority tasks will give us the best chance to meet the deadline. Notice how your response is structured, clear, and confident. Advanced fluency is not just about words, it's about thinking logically and communicating in a way that makes others understand immediately. Now, let's simulate a casual but nuanced social conversation. This is essential because advanced fluency applies to both professional and everyday interactions. Scenario: your friend asks your opinion about a controversial topic. Prompt: do you think social media has more positive or negative effects? Response: it's complicated. On one hand, social media connects people and spreads awareness quickly, which is incredibly valuable. On the other hand, it can encourage misinformation and create pressure to present a perfect life. I think balance and awareness are key. Using it consciously makes the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. Here, you demonstrate balanced thinking, advanced connectors, and sophisticated vocabulary, all delivered naturally. Next, let's combine storytelling, emotion, and advanced grammar. You are recounting a personal experience to a colleague. The goal is clarity, pacing, and expressive tone. Prompt: tell me about a challenge you overcame recently. Response: last month, I had to lead a project with a very tight deadline. At first, it felt overwhelming because the team had multiple competing priorities. However, by breaking the project into manageable tasks and keeping everyone focused, we not only met the deadline, but exceeded expectations. It taught me the importance of planning, communication, and staying calm under pressure. Notice how the story flows naturally, with clear sequencing, past perfect tense, and transition phrases like however, by, and not only, but. Finally, let's simulate quick-fire conversational agility. You will respond immediately to short prompts without overthinking. This exercise mirrors real-life spontaneity. Prompt 1. What would you do if you missed a flight? Response: I would first check if there's another available flight, contact the airline immediately, and then inform anyone affected by the delay. Staying calm is key. Prompt 2. How do you motivate your team during a difficult project? Response: I focus on clear communication, celebrate small wins, and ensure everyone knows their contributions matter. Encouragement and guidance go a long way. Prompt 3. What's the best way to handle criticism at work? Response: I listen carefully, ask for specifics if needed, and reflect on how I can improve. Staying objective and avoiding defensiveness helps turn criticism into growth. By practicing these real-life scenarios, you consolidate all the skills you've developed across parts 1-9: listening, shadowing, vocabulary, connectors, tone recognition, predictive comprehension, structured thought, and emotional nuance. At this stage, your fluency becomes holistic. Your brain, mouth, and ears work together seamlessly. Remember, true advanced fluency is not about perfection. It's about thinking in English, speaking confidently, interpreting meaning in real time, and expressing yourself naturally. You already have the tools: immersive listening, shadowing, rhythm control, predictive listening, expressive connectors, softeners, and structured storytelling. The final step is consistent daily practice. Use these exercises in professional situations, social conversations, and personal reflection. Speak, listen, predict, and express over and over until it feels second nature. Congratulations! You have now completed the full 2-hour advanced English immersion session. By following this script, shadowing every passage, practicing each scenario, and actively engaging with real-life English, you are firmly on the path to C1-C2 fluency. Your listening is sharper, your speaking is clearer, your vocabulary is richer, and your confidence is stronger. Keep practicing, and you will notice that English stops being something you study and starts being something you live in. DreamWave English, with me, Sophia, has guided you through this journey. Keep revisiting these parts, and soon, advanced fluency will be your natural way of speaking.